Welcome to CNC Carving, Easel Software for Beginners, presented by the Mount Royal University Library Maker Studio. In this video, you will learn how to create a design in Easel, which is a design software for the Carvey, a CNC routing machine. For more project ideas, resources, and information, you can go to the Maker Studio website, which is found on the Mount Royal University Library website, under Spaces.
In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge that the Mount Royal University is situated on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, including the Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, and the Tsuut'ina and the Stoney Nakoda nations, as well as the Métis Nation Region 3, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta.
This workshop will explain the function of Easel as a design software for CNC machines, demonstrate how to use the settings and tools in Easel to create designs to be used in the Carvey, and explain possible projects and uses of CNC Carvey. At the end of this workshop, participants should be able to understand the functions of Easel as a design software for CNC machines, have the ability to use the settings and tools in Easel to create a design to be used in the Carvey, and begin to design their own. What is Easel? Easel is the free proprietary CNC design software for the Carvey provided by Inventables. What this means is you'll be able to create a design in Easel to carve out your design using Carvey, which is the CNC machine. What is a CNC router? CNC stands for Computer Numerical Control. So what that means is a router follows a computer-controlled path to carve out your design. The CNC machine that the Maker Studio has is a Carvey, and you'll need to use Easel to create your design. Okay, to get started with Easel, you're going to need to make an account with Inventables. So you're just going to go to inventables.com, and then you're going to need to make an account, and you can do that by clicking on Login and then New Customer, and then filling out the appropriate information. Now that we've made an account, it's time to log in to our Inventables account. So I'm going to click on Login, and then I'm going to enter my account information. And there I am logged in. So now I'm going to click on Easel and then Explore Easel. And there we go. So these are the projects that I have that I've done previously. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to New Project. And there we go. The first thing we're going to do with our new design is change the name. That way it'll be easy to recognize in your design library. So over here it says Untitled, so just click on that and change it to whatever is applicable for your design. So I'm going to change mine to Tutorial. There we go. So now it's called Tutorial. And the next thing we need to do is make sure that the design pane and the preview pane are for the machine that we're going to be using, which is the Carvey. So if we go to here where it says Machine, it's on Carvey now, but yours might say Xcarve, right? If it's on Xcarve, that's what this setup is for the Xcarve, and that's what the measurements are for. So you're going to need it to be on Carvey. Go, and that's good. So now that we've chosen Carvey as our machine, you can see that the design plane has this red area, and that's actually representing a real clamp on the Carvey called the homing clamp. So if you are making a design, you cannot put any of your design into this red area. Nothing can intersect this red area, or the carving will actually start drilling through the homing clamp, which wouldn't be very good. All right, so you can see that we have two panes here. We have the design pane and we have the preview pane. To navigate in the design pane, you can scroll using the arrow keys on your keyboard, or you can click and drag on the scroll bar. So that's these. If you'd like to zoom, you can use this plus and minus icon. I'm just going to minus out of here so we can see the whole thing. There we go. If you zoom out too far or you need to reset your view, you can use this little home icon and it resets it. And if you would rather use inches or millimeters instead of inches, you can just click on this little guy here. To navigate the preview pane, you can orbit by clicking and dragging the left mouse button. There's orbiting. You can pan by holding down Shift and clicking and dragging the left mouse button. And you can zoom by using the scroll wheel on your mouse. Okay, now it's time to enter the dimensions for our material. So you do that right here where it says birch plywood. So that's the default material that they give you. Just click on that. So you can see right now it's set up birch plywood with 12 inches for the x-axis, 8 inches for the y-axis, that's the length, and half an inch for the thickness. So you will have a piece of material and you will enter the exact measurements for your material. So if it is something like birch plywood, you can choose that. These are all different materials that Inventable sells. You can find something that's close to what you have. So if it's a softwood like pine, you could use soft maple. Or if it's MDF, you could just choose any of these, something that's close. So let's choose soft maple so we can change it. And you can see that the preview pane has changed the look of the material to look more like soft maple. Now let's enter 8 inches for our x-axis, 6 inches for our y, and then for our thickness, we can leave it at half an inch, or maybe we can change it to 0.75 just to get a different look. There we go. It's very important when you're measuring your thickness to use calipers. For the width and the length, you can use like a tape measure or a ruler, but for the thickness, a caliper is very important so that you get the exact thickness. And here you go. Now you can see that the display, or the preview pane has given us a nice 3D look at what our material should be. It's time to select the bit for your project, and you can do that up here where it says bit. So just click on this and it gives you all the different types of bits that are used with the carving. So if you're not sure which bit to use, you can click on this need help bit and material recommendations, and it will give you a PDF that explains what different kinds of bits do. Okay, so let's click on this, and it's on the 1/8 bit. So in Easel, you can choose 2 bits for your project. So if I needed another bit, I could click on this to use an additional bit. And what that means is this would be your rough pass. So if you had a design that had it needed to clear out a lot of material, but it also had smaller parts on it that needed to be cleared out, you could start with a rough pass. So using a thicker bit, because it's faster. In fact, you can't, even if I was trying to use a 1/32 bit, it won't even let me choose it. It's too small to do a lot of clearing out of a lot of material. So it's saying you should probably choose this 1/8 bit. And then for the detailed bit, that's when you can choose a smaller bit to clear out the tinier parts. So we'll just choose 1/16 for now and see how that goes. If you'd like to remove the detailed bit option, you can totally do that. You just need to click on this little X, and then you'll go back down to 1 bit. I'm just going to bring that back in for what we're doing here. There we are. Let's talk a little bit about cut settings. So cut settings dictate how your machine moves when it carves out a project. You can choose between automatic or manual. Automatic is good for beginners since it uses Inventable's recommended values, but if you get a little better using the machine after a while, you could choose manual where you can enter in your own values. So let's discuss a little bit what each of these does before we move on. So feed rate is the rate at which your machine advances along carving your project. For the carvee, the feed is measured in inches per minute. So another way to think about the feed rate is the distance your bit moves through your project in 1 minute. Plunge rate is the speed at which the router bit is driven down into the material when starting a cut. And it'll vary depending on the bit used and the material being processed. So if it's a thin bit or if it's really hard material, it'll be different than a thicker bit with soft material. And depth per pass is how deeply your bit goes into your material every time it starts a new toolpath. So the depth per pass is commonly measured in inches or millimeters. For example, a depth per pass of 0.125 inches means that your bit will carve 0.125 inches deep each time it starts a new toolpath. So if you're clearing out a pocket that's 1 inch deep, your machine will make a total of 8 passes. If you would like to use the manual settings, there's more detailed information at inventables.com. Okay, now it's time to start our design. You do that by coming over to the design pane, and on the left side here, you'll see all the different tools that you can use to create your design. I'm going to go through what each of these tools does, and then I will show you how you can edit each of the designs that you're doing and how you can change the depth. So first of all, this is the Shapes tool, and when you click on it, it opens up and you have 4 shapes you can choose from. So if you click on one of them, there you go, you get a star. The next tool is the Line tool, and what that does is allow you to click and create a shape. There we are. And the next tool is the Drill tool. So what that does is it allows you to create a hole that's the size of the bit that you have chosen. So click on that and there appears a hole. So it's the center that you want to line up, and it has these little crosshairs to help you get it exactly where you want it to be. There we are. The next tool is the Text tool. So if you click on that, it opens up and you get a selection of 15 different fonts to choose from. So let's choose one of them. Here we go. And you can click on that and change the text. All right, the next tool that we have is the Icon tool. The Icon tool has a searchable library that allows you to quickly add pre-designed shapes. So if I click on this, there you go. You can see all these pre-designed shapes, and you can search the library. I can write tree, there we go, and select one of them. I'm just going to click and move that out of the way, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. The next tool we have is the Apps tool, and that's here. So if you click on that, it will give you a bunch of apps. This is a library of apps that allows you to complete complicated tasks by eliminating steps, like making an inlay or offsetting a series of shapes. Or for instance, in this category generators, and there's different categories here, I could choose puzzle. If I didn't have a shape selected, like you can see here, I have a shape selected. If I didn't have it selected and I went to the app icon, it would not allow me to select these. So I will need to have a shape selected first. So why don't I choose this one, apps, and I'll choose puzzle designer. And you can see here, oh, it's not for text. So let's not choose text. Let's maybe choose the star. There we go. You can see it's saying there are 5 rows and 5 columns, and I can change that. And all of this is built into this app, so you don't have to design a puzzle from scratch. So I hit import, and there we go, it's all set up. And the last tool that you can choose is the import. So you can import the following files into Easel. I'm just going to select it and you'll see SVG, which is scalable vector graphics, G code, which is drawing exchange format, DXF, which is a numerical control programming language, or image files that you can trace. So you can do that by just importing it, and then you can adjust your settings for that. And it's really handy. It means that you can bring in a drawing you've created or a vector, and then you can make that into your design. Now that we've gone over what each of these tools does, let's talk about how we can edit the design once it's in the design pane. So if I select a shape, I can click on it once and you'll see a blue bounding box around it. That means that I can now edit it by rotating it, by clicking this handle up here. I can scale it by clicking on the corner handles. I can change it on one side, and I can move it by clicking and dragging. Now you'll notice that every time I make a change in the design pane, it reflects the change in the preview pane, which is really great so that you can take a look at what your design is going to look like in a 3D view. Okay, so if I have done something and I want to undo it, I can either go Control Z or Command Z if you have a Mac, or I can go to Edit, which is up here in the toolbar, and I can undo, or you can right-click on the selected shape. I don't see undo there, but there's options there that you can use as well. If I want to copy and paste it, I can go to Edit and I can copy and paste, or I can select it and do Control C or Control V to paste it. I'm just going to Control Z to get rid of that. You can also right click and you can copy from here. If I wanted to bring it forward, I can do that from here. I can bring it backwards and I can layer it. I can change its, I can flip it horizontally or I can flip it vertically. And you can do that as well from up in this edit menu. So something else this edit menu has that the right clicking doesn't have is center to material. So I can click on that and it is in the center of my material now. Or I can go to edit and I can change the depth, but I'll get into that in just a minute. All right, so let's move that back over here. So I have one shape selected now. I can select more than one by selecting one, holding the Shift key, and then selecting another shape or another shape. You can just keep going, or I can actually draw a rectangle by clicking and dragging where there isn't a shape and over top of the shapes I want to select. Now to further edit the shape, what you can do is you can select it and then double click, and what you'll get are these points. And another way of doing that is to select it and then click on this edit points window, and that will open up. So right now everything it's a curved shape, it's a circle. I can click and drag these points and I can pull it out and I can use these handles. If it's on curved, each point will have a handle, so I can modify the shape of the curve, or I can change it if I want to straight. And now you'll see the handles are gone, and if I click and drag this point, the lines are straight that go between the points. Okay, and we can stop editing by clicking off it or by clicking stop editing. And there we are. And you can do this same kind of editing with any of the shapes. Not text though. With text, you can you can modify it by clicking on the handles or and pulling it out, but you can't change the points on it. If you would like to group or combine some shapes, you can do that by selecting more than one shape. So I'm actually just going to get rid of this one for now. And so like this tree, if I wanted to move it, I would have to select everything. Otherwise, what's going to happen is I'd have to move things one at a time. So I can group everything together by selecting all of the shapes I want to combine, and then going to edit and go to combine. And now this is one shape. So if I click off it and click back on, it's all selected. There's also a tool called the alignment tool. So if I select a shape, so I'm just going to bring another one in like a square. So if I have the square selected, let's make it a little smaller. And I also select this shape, this alignment window appears, this toolbar. So you can use this to align the shapes relative to each other. So I have them both selected. I can align them both to the left. I can align them center, to the right, bottom, center, and top. So you can see that this square is on top of the tree. If I wanted to, I could change its position. So I could right click on it and send it backwards, and now it's underneath the tree. All right, let's talk about the cut path. So if I have a shape selected, you can see that this cut option opens up with a slider. There are 4 options to choose from when setting up your design's cut path. You can either clear out a pocket, which is what it's on now, and you can see that it's clearing out everything in this design. I'm just going to actually move this square out of the way. There we go. You can cut a shape, like cut on shape path. So what we do to change that is we click on this cut path drop-down menu, cut on shape path. There we go. And it'll follow the path. The bit will follow the path, but it won't cut out, it won't clear out the inside. You can choose, oops, not that one, this one. Cut outside shape path. There we go. And you can see that the path is now on the inside, and the bit will follow the outside of the path instead of directly on it. And you can also cut inside shape path. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so you can see. Now what the bit's doing is it's following the inside of the path. So the blue line is the path of our design, and the bit will follow the inside. This is important to consider because it's going to make your design smaller. Whereas like if I had on outside of path, the shape is wider now, and you can see there are parts where the bit is going to go over. There you go. You can see where it is going to go over itself. So it's really important to consider this, and it's very important also to look at the preview pane because it'll give you a look at what the design is going to look like after you choose each of these options. All right, so let's talk about cut depth. So that's what the slider is for. You can change the cut depth of your project using this slider. Deeper carves usually take more time. So for an example, we have it set right now to just under 1/2 inch. So we have the depth of this material set to 0.75 inches, so 3/4 inches, and that's what the lowest will be. If I pull the slider down to here, it's saying that that is the deepest that it can go. Now the reason that you see these yellow circles is because it's cut all the way down to the bottom. So in order to keep everything in place while the machine is running, it's going to need to add tabs. So it's yellow like this because Easel is incorporating tabs into your design in those areas because it needs them. You can also create a mask by having 2 shapes together and one at the cut depth of 0. So I'll show you what I mean by that. If I bring in a circle and bring that there. And then that one has a cut depth. And then on top of it, I put in an icon. Let's see, we could use this tree. Okay, and I'm just going to shrink it a little bit. If I have the cut depth of the tree at 0, I could make it deeper. And you can see here, I'm just going to zoom in, if I did it like this, where the tree is at the cut depth of about 1/4 inch and the circle is about 3/8 of an inch, the tree itself will be a little bit shallower of a cut. So you don't have to have the same depth for each of your shapes. But if I wanted to create a mask, I would make the tree have the depth of 0, and this is what it would look like. So let's talk about the size of our bits. So what we have here is some very sharp corners on our design, and they're rounded out with this one because the bit is so large. Even our detail bit is actually kind of large. So if I click on my first bit, my roughing pass bit, and I change it to 1/16, and then I change the detail bit to 1/32, let's see, you can see now that the corners are a lot sharper. So if I put in some text, there we go, how about something like this one? It requires a much smaller bit to get these fine corners. If I change this back to 1/16 and this one to 1/8, you can see that some of it's missing. So it's really important to take a look at the preview pane while you're creating your design to make sure that the bits that you chose are going to give you the look that you're after. So if you are finished your design and you're ready to use the Carvey, it's a really good idea to simulate it so that you can see how long it's going to take. It often, depending on how deep the design is, it could take quite a while. So you just click on simulate here and it'll give you a time. So for this design, it'll take about 14 minutes for the first pass. So that's with the 1/8 bit. And about 25 minutes for the detailed pass. So it'll go through the whole thing, doing the first pass here with this one, and then it'll stop, and you will get to change out the bit, and then it'll do the second pass. So if you want to, you can actually hit the play button here, and it'll show you the tool path that the bit is going to take. There we go. And you can hide your material if you only want to see the tool path. Now remember that this red area represents the homing clamp on the Carvey, so you cannot have your design overlapping it, because anywhere it's overlapping, the drill will absolutely go right through this clamp. So it's very important to remember not to place your design in this area. When you're ready to bring your design into the Maker Studio and have it carved out, you just have to save your file. Your file's already saved, actually. You don't have to save it while it's going. It automatically saves. You just need to come into the Maker Studio, bring your own computer or laptop or use one of ours and log into Inventables, and then you just connect the computer to the machine, and when you're ready you hit carve, and if it's connected, this carve button will be green if it's ready, and it'll take you through the instructions on how to get your machine set up to go. If you have further questions, you can contact the Maker Studio at makerstudio@mtroyal.ca, or you can email the Maker Studio staff.